Hello, this is Ms. Montgomery, and we're going to go over how to write a formal laboratory report. This is going to be part one. We're going to be using the generic laboratory scoring guide that you got earlier in the semester. First of all, take a look at your scoring guide, and you'll see over on the far left-hand side, you've got a list of things that have to be in your laboratory report. And then over farther right, you can see what the point value is. For the first one and the second one, you can get a maximum of 2 points. For the next two, you can get a maximum of 3. But then experimental design is really, really important. So that could be that's times 2, so you could get a total of 6 points for that. So the first thing that you need is a laboratory title and headings. So it says an appropriate laboratory title is included and centered on the first line of the page. Okay, so we've got it up at the top of the page, but what does appropriate mean? Well, appropriate in this case means that you need to have a statement of your independent variable, your dependent variable, probably the species of organism that you used, and perhaps the amount of time that you took to do the lab itself. And then it says headings for each laboratory section are clearly indicated. So the headings are going to go all the way over to the left-hand side. And the first heading that you have is going to be problem, and then hypothesis, and then materials, and then experimental design. And then after that, you're going to look at the shaded sections. The next one's going to be data and calculations, analysis, and conclusion. So if you have all of that, you've got that first 2 points. The problem, it says, in the form of a testable question. Testable. It means that it would be easy to design a laboratory experiment based on that question. The independent and dependent variables must be included, and you have to have it in the form of a question. The question mark has to be there. The hypothesis, it says, includes independent variable, dependent variable, and a prediction of results. 3 things. You have to have all 3 of those there to get full credit. It may be written in the format of an if, whatever happens to the independent variable, comma, then, and then whatever happens to the dependent variable and what you expect. What you expect to happen does not have to be correct. It just has to be there. That prediction part has to be there to guide your laboratory. It's fine if it didn't work out the way that you expected it to. You can get just as many points either way. The next heading is materials. You're going to have all of your materials listed with the exception of common laboratory materials, and the list is going to be in 1 or 2 columns. Okay, so the exception of common laboratory materials. You don't need pens, pencils, calculators, you don't need your laboratory notebook, you don't need lab tables, you don't need anything that would be understood to be used in any laboratory. It can be in 1 column or it can be in 2 columns. It may not be in one big blob with commas in between them. The next section, and the last one that we're going to go over in this video, is the experimental design. So this is a procedure in a numbered list format. That means it's going to have number 1, measure 100 milliliters of water. You're going to have it in a numbered list format like a recipe. Only essential steps are included. Controlled and experimental groups are identified. Constants are included. The data to be collected is referred to as the dependent variable. The operational definitions are clearly defined, and there's enough detail that a student in the previous grade could complete the procedure as written without any help. Okay, it says only the essential steps included. So all of the stuff that you need to actually do the lab, don't start out with gather materials. That's not an essential step. It won't be graded on your end of course exam. Don't tell me that you're going to clean up after the lab. You're going to do that anyway. That's understood. The controlled and experimental groups identified and the constants are included. Okay, so this is a little contrived. The reason that this is set up this way is so that you can get all the points that you need from your end of course exam, because this is what the state wants you to have. When you go past 10th grade, so when you take chemistry, even if you're taking it this year, you won't be doing it this way. So one way that you can do this is say, set up the control group as follows. So number one, set up a control group as follows, and then underneath that have an A, B, C, and D, how you want that set up. Make sure that you've got constants included, so make sure you say same water, use the same beaker, use the same graduated cylinder, use the same petri dishes. Make sure that you're putting the word same in there several times. Then you would have number two, set up your experimental group as follows. A, do this. B, do this. C, do this. Okay. Data to be collected is referred to as the dependent variable. So if I am collecting growth data on a tree, I'm going to say growth of tree, and then in parentheses I'm going to put dependent variable, or DV. The operational definitions are clearly defined. Okay, so an operational definition, that's how you defined growth of a tree in your lab. So you could do it a bunch of different ways. You could define it as the height from the base of the soil to the top of the highest leaf. You could do it as the length of the longest branch. You could dig up the whole thing and measure from the bottom of the roots to the top of the tree. You could measure the width, the diameter, or the circumference of the tree at a specific height. So how exactly did you define what you were doing? You must have enough detail that a student in the previous grade could go into a room with your procedure and the materials and nobody else in there and complete the procedure and get the same results you did. Okay, so that concludes the first video that we're going to do in setting up a formal laboratory report. We'll have a second video coming up soon. Thank you.